Hello there and welcome to my craft room clear out series. We're not going to be making a card today, instead we're going to be making an Easter box instead. I was scrolling back through my phone and I found a video that I'd made for this in March 2018 and I'd never got round to editing and uploading it, so I'm going to recreate it now and see what we get. My original video showed that we could get 2 mini treat bags of mini eggs or something in there, so we'll see how big they are when they're assembled and if the bag sizes are still the same. We're going to use this lovely Welcome Easter stamp set, which I think is just adorable, and we're going to decorate the boxes with that, but let's start with the boxes. So I've got Seaside Spray cardstock and I've already added the images from the stamp set to the block. I've got the little flower, the leaf and the bee here, and I'm going to stamp all over this card before we score, because if you score first then the images won't stamp properly. So I'm using Versamark today because I want a subtle background colour rather than a bolder colour which the same colour ink pad would give you, and as this dries it will get a bit darker. You can get 3 boxes from 2 sheets of A4 or 8.5 by 11 card, so you are going to need to do this twice. I would recommend stamping the images quite close together because the boxes are fairly small, so you don't want too much blank space on the sides and the front where you can see it. So the Versamark will dry a bit darker than you can see here on camera. It's a bit tricky to see it, but it does give a nice subtle background effect. And as I say, that this tutorial will be in centimetres and inches because 2018 me was very organised and did both measurements. So I do seem to be having a bit of trouble with my editing software, so unfortunately for the rest of the video we will be a bit further zoomed out, so you are going to see my guidelines on the counter. But rather than delay the uploading of this video, I'm going to go ahead and just share it with you anyway. You are going to need a decent scoring and cutting tool. I've got my Stampin Up trimmer here. You can use a scoreboard and a craft knife. It will just be a bit slower. So let's start with the scoring. So I'm going to do centimetres first. So 2.5, score at 2.5 centimetres, then 5.5 centimetres, then 15 centimetres, score at 18 centimetres, and then you're going to cut at 27.5 centimetres. So 2.5, 5.5, 15, 18 and 27.5 centimetres. So then we're going to flip the card and cut it into 7 centimetre strips along the short side here, which will give you the front and back wraps essentially. So the front and back, top and bottom sections of the box, and on the second piece of card in a moment we're going to make the side panels. So in inches, along the long side we're going to score at 1 inch, 2.25 inches, 6 inches, 7.25 inches, and then as your card is 11 inches you shouldn't have to cut at the end. So 1, 2.25, 6, 7.25, and then you're going to cut. Then you're going to flip it the same as I did, and you're going to cut into 2 3/4 inch strips to make your boxes. So again, this will be your front wrap. So on the end where there are two smaller panels, then you're going to round the corners because this will be the front flap that you tuck in. So that's the 2.5 and 5.5 centimetre score line, or the 1 inch and 2.25 inch score lines. So I have a corner rounder punch, but if you don't have a corner rounder punch you can always use a small circle punch. You are going to need that in a moment anyway. So to use the small circle punch around the corners, rather than going into the punch, you put the card into the top of the punch, and that just gives you a nice slightly rounded corner. I assume bigger the circle, the rounder the corner, but as I've got a corner rounder punch then I will use that just to finish mine off. but it is a good alternative if you don't have a corner rounder punch. So turning the card round now, on the opposite side of this wrap, then that would be the large panel, which will be your front panel, and you're going to need to measure into the center widthways of this panel. So that would be 3.5 centimeters or 1 3/8 of an inch for the inches measurement. And so just put a little pencil line, and then you're going to punch out a little half moon with that circle punch, and then we're going to use our bone folder to burnish all the score lines inwards to make the wrap for this box. So that gives you your front, back, top and bottom of 3 boxes out of 1 sheet of card. So let's make the sides now. So this piece of card is for the sides, and I'm just going to stamp randomly all over this so that the pattern matches. And then going to need, for the 3 boxes, you're going to need 6 of these. So what I'm going to do is cut along the short edge at 12.5 centimeters, which is 4.5 inches. We can use that to make a couple of extra pieces. Now this is the right length for the boxes, and we're going to score at 1 centimetre, which is 1/4 inch. I'm going to flip that round now. Then 4 centimetres, score at 4, which is 1.5 inches, and then cut at 5 centimetres, which is 1 3/4 of an inch. So 1 centimetre, 4 centimetres, cut at 5, or 1/4 inch, 1.5 inches, and then cut at 1 3/4 inch. And that'll give you 5 from across the top. And then you're going to use your side piece that you cut off originally to cut your extra piece. So 12.5 centimeters high or 4.5 inches high, and repeat the scoring down the sides. So on these pieces, you're going to need to score at one end at 1 centimetre, and at the other end 2 centimetres. So at one end, that would be, so the length on this in inches is 4.5 inches, and at one end it will be 1/4 inch, and at the other end it will be 1/2 inch. The 2 centimetre section or 1/2 inch section, that's the bottom of your box, and the narrower 1 centimetre 1/4 inch is the top. So we're just going to cut away all of the corners on this, top and bottom, on each side piece. I would recommend coming in at a slight angle on the solid piece in the centre here, so that you end up with it's just an easier box to fold together. Not a lot, maybe, you know, 1/8 inch, or like a couple of millimeters. So I've just assembled one, and I find it easier if you cut in at a slight angle on the sides as well as the tops. So add that in to your trimming, and this is what you should end up with, a little stack of side panels. This can all go in the bin. And now you need your bone folder to just burnish those score lines. So your 2 centimetre section, that's the bottom of the side piece. So you're going to add that. You've got your 1/2 moon cut out here. That's your front. So that's your bottom section here. So add that. I'm going to add that with Tombow, but I think I'll use red line tape for the sides because it'll just stick quicker. You can use Tombow for all of it though if you want to, but I just think where it dries, where it doesn't, you don't have to wait for it to dry, you're not going to be holding it together for too long. So add that, line that up with the score lines either side. Stick it on. Tombow gives you a few moments to move it around a bit to make sure that you've got it in the right place. And then some red line tape. That can go down either side of there. So I might lay that way so I'm not fighting it. Now make sure you line this up perfectly to start with because there's no unsticking this red line tape in my opinion. So I think I'll do the front panel first. I'll bend it over and then line up the front and then stick it at the back. Turn it over and repeat. Line it up, stick it down. And there's your box. Shall we see if it fits 2 bags of mini eggs in still? Don't know if the sizes have changed in the last few years. Absolutely perfect. So a perfect Easter treat. So should we decorate these boxes now? Let's have a look what paper I've got. So I found this It's My Party Designer Series paper stack. And that's got loads of lovely pattern paper in it. So I want something fairly subtle because we are still going to use this Welcome Easter stamp set. I like this. Maybe a sheet of that spotty. We have one at the front of there too. Perhaps that spotty beigey colour. So in my original video, it's not said to score this paper wrap. It just says to cut at 2 inches, which is 5 centimetres, and just wrap it around the box and secure at the back with some glue. So we'll do that again because 2018 me obviously knew what she was talking about, maybe. So we want the obviously the fold at the back. So place it on the front. We don't want it too tight because you need people to be able to slide this off without damaging the box. So what I will do is add a bit of glue at the top on the back and a little line of glue at the end of this section, and then that will secure it top and bottom of the fold over section. You can always then reinforce the creases so it sits nicely, and then it slides off perfectly. So let's repeat that on the other two. And so that's our 3 boxes wrapped. And now we've just got to make the toppers. So I'm going to stamp these with Stays on white shimmer card, because I'm going to watercolour each one. And you just get your Stays on cleaner and add it to the stamp. And I just clean mine off with a wet wipe. And leave them to air dry. So when I say watercolour on shimmer card, I'll probably stick with my blender pen. So that's the colouring in done. Okay, so I'm just going to die cut them out now. Yeah, I'm really happy with those. I think they're lovely. I'll probably give them to my grandkids. So I'm just going to add these to the scallop circle layer. And then I'm just going to glue those just down the centre and add them to the paper strip. And so that's today's project, which is 3 boxes out of 2 sheets of card. And we've used the Welcome Easter stamp set, which is full of lovely cute little images, watercoloured onto shimmer card with a blender pen. And so don't forget, I have a new video every day on YouTube and a highlight reel on Facebook and Instagram. So please do follow along and tell all your friends to join in, because I've got a big pile of crafty stamp sets and projects now sat in a different place to I had before. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll be back again tomorrow. Bye bye.